Okay, let's really get into this. I mean, just think about how much technology is part of our daily lives now, especially for kids and teens.
Oh, completely. It's often the first thing they check in the morning, last thing at night.
Exactly. And that pull is, well, it's really strong, isn't it? Staying connected with friends, getting creative, finding information instantly, it's all right there.
It is, and there are genuine upsides. That access opens doors for learning, exploring interests, even building friendships across huge distances.
Yeah.
It's not all bad, this connected world.
No, definitely not all bad. But well, we've spent a good amount of time digging into our sources here, looking at the latest on preventing bullying, checking out these teen mental health surveys, and sifting through expert advice on screen time.
Mhm.
And what really jumps out is that this digital world, it's like a classic double-edged sword.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And that's exactly what we want to unpack in this deep dive. We're trying to figure out, okay, what do healthy boundaries actually look like for screen time? How does social media really mess with, or maybe help, how young people see
All
themselves?
right.
And crucially, what practical things can you actually do to find a better balance?
Yeah.
Especially thinking about things like cyberbullying and just, overall well-being.
And a huge piece of that puzzle is simply the amount of time they're plugged in.
Hmm.
Our sources are showing for kids aged, say, 8 to 12, it's averaging 4 to 6 hours a day already.
4 to 6 hours for the younger ones.
Yep.
Okay.
And then for teens, it shoots up. We're talking up to 9 hours on average.
9 hours. Wow.
Yeah.
That's basically a full-time job.
It really is. And that much time online has to change how they interact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The sources definitely point towards this shift, fewer face-to-face interactions, more happening online.
And think about what gets lost in translation there. Online, you miss so much of the nuance,
Hmm.
the body language, facial expressions, even just the tone of voice.
Right. All those little cues we rely on in person to really get what someone's saying.
Exactly. Those are so fundamental for developing strong social skills, for learning to read a room, basically.
You can totally misunderstand a text, can't you? Sarcasm just doesn't land sometimes.
Not easily, no.
And then you throw middle school into the mix. That time when fitting in, peer approval, it all becomes so intense. Social media just seems to magnify all of that, the good and the bad.
It absolutely amplifies it. Now, connecting this to mental well-being, there's a 2024 Pew Research survey that gives us some, well, pretty interesting data points.
Okay, what did that find?
It found that nearly 45% of teens feel like they spend too much time on social media.
So they feel it themselves.
Yes, and that number is actually up from previous years.
Mhm.
It suggests maybe there's a growing awareness among teens themselves about their own digital habits.
That's interesting, but does it affect everyone the same way?
Apparently not. The survey found a noticeable difference between girls and boys. Teen girls were more likely to say social media negatively impacts their mental health.
How much more likely?
Quite a bit.
Hmm.
So 25% of girls versus 14% of boys felt it hurt their mental health. And things like confidence, 20% of girls versus 10% of boys. Sleep was a big one, too. Half of the girls, 50%, versus 40% of boys said it negatively affected their sleep.
Wow, those are pretty significant gaps,
Yeah.
especially the sleep one. Half the girls.
They're concerning figures. And all of this ties into what some call the highlight reel effect.
Ah, yes, everyone's perfect life online.
Exactly. It's this endless stream of curated moments, amazing trips, big achievements, perfect selfies. Our brains, they seem almost wired to make social comparisons. So when kids are constantly seeing these idealized versions of
It
reality,
makes them feel bad about their own lives.
it can trigger something called relative deprivation. Basically, yeah, feeling worse off even if your own life is actually pretty good. It just chips away at self-esteem, fuels anxiety, depression, poor body image. And we see this reflected elsewhere, too. Sources mention roughly 1 in 5 adolescents reporting symptoms of anxiety or depression. That context is important.
It really is like trying to live up to an impossible standard that isn't even real half the time.
Precisely. But we should also mention the Pew survey wasn't all negative.
Okay, good. What were the positives?
Well, a big majority, 74% of teens, said social media makes them feel more connected to their friends.
That makes sense. Connection is huge for teenagers.
And 63% saw it as a space for creativity, for expressing themselves. So there are real benefits there, too.
Okay, so connection, creativity, those are definite pluses. But we can't ignore the darker side, which brings us to, well, cyberbullying. That's a really serious one.
It is. And simply put, cyberbullying is just bullying using digital tech phones, computers, tablets, gaming consoles.
So it's not just mean texts.
No, it could be sending nasty messages or pictures,
Yeah.
spreading rumors online, deliberately excluding someone from group chats or games, posting embarrassing stuff. Lots of forms.
And the awful thing is, it can feel inescapable, right? Like school bullying might stop at the school gates, but this can follow you home, into your bedroom.
Exactly. It could be 247. And the stats show it's pretty common. Around 34% of adolescents report experiencing some form of bullying, whether online or off.
That's more than a third. So what should parents or caregivers be looking out for? What are the signs?
Some potential red flags might be noticeable changes in how much or how little they use their devices, strong emotional reactions, anger, sadness, anxiety after being online.
Like slamming the laptop shut?
Could be.
Yeah.
Or trying to hide their screen when you walk by,
Yeah.
maybe suddenly avoiding social events they used to like, becoming withdrawn.
Okay, those make sense. So if you see those signs or you suspect something's up, what are the actual steps to take?
The advice is pretty consistent across the board. First, notice those changes like we just discussed. Then, really try to create a safe space to talk. Let them know you're there to support them, not judge them.
Listening is key.
Absolutely. And then, documentation is vital. Take screenshots of the hurtful messages, posts, whatever it is. Keep a record.
Okay, screenshots. Got it.
Then, use the tools available. Block the bully on the platforms they're using. Report the behavior to the social media site or the gaming platform. They all have reporting mechanisms and policies against this.
And what about school?
Definitely report it to the school as well.
Yeah.
And if there are threats involved or anything potentially illegal, don't hesitate to involve the police.
Right.
But overarching all of that is just providing support, making sure your child knows they're not alone and that you'll help them through it.
That support piece feels so crucial. Okay, so documentation, blocking, reporting, support, good, concrete steps. Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk practical rules, finding that healthier digital balance. It's not about banning everything, right? It's about guidance.
Exactly. It's about guiding positive use. And a really important first step is establishing clear family rules about, well, what's okay online behavior? What kind of content is acceptable? Which apps are appropriate?
And the sources suggest doing this together as a family.
Yes, very much so. When kids have a say in setting the limits, they tend to understand the why behind them better, and they're often more likely to stick to them. So instead of just a top-down rule like no phones at dinner.
You explain it's family connection time.
Right. It's about practicing those face-to-face skills, being present with each other.
So things like tech-free zones, maybe the dinner table, bedrooms, or a screen curfew at night, those kinds of shared agreements work.
They can be really effective. And that evening curfew is particularly important for sleep. We mentioned the impact earlier, and experts actually recommend a 30 to 60-minute tech blackout right before bed.
To let the brain wind down.
Exactly. That blue light from screens really does interfere with melatonin, the sleep hormone. So giving your brain a break helps signal it's time for sleep.
Makes sense. What about things like parental controls? Are those useful?
They can be a tool in the toolbox for sure. But they aren't a substitute for open communication. It's still vital to talk to your teens. Ask them about their favorite apps, what they like online, maybe even join them, sometimes watch a video, play a game.
So you actually understand their world a bit better.
Precisely. It helps you offer guidance that's actually relevant to what they're doing.
And it's not just about limiting screen time, but also about actively planning off-screen time, right? Like family activities.
Yes, definitely. Making time for tech-free family outings or activities is crucial for strengthening those real-world bonds.
What about monitoring, like knowing passwords and checking history? That feels tricky.
It is tricky, especially as kids get older and value their privacy more. The advice often suggests respectful monitoring, maybe knowing usernames and passwords, having occasional check-ins about their browsing history or social media feeds. It's a balance between awareness and trust.
A tough balance.
But perhaps even more fundamental than monitoring is teaching good digital citizenship.
What does that mean exactly, digital citizenship?
It means teaching them how to behave responsibly and respectfully online, understanding that what they post creates a digital footprint. Thinking about online privacy. Basically, the online equivalent of being a good citizen in the real world.
Like the old saying, think before you speak. But online, it's think before you post.
Exactly. Only share stuff you'd be okay with seeing printed out somewhere later.
And something we sometimes forget, we need to model this stuff ourselves, don't we, as parents?
Oh, hugely important. Kids learn by watching. If we're constantly glued to our phones, that sends a really powerful message, even if we don't mean it to.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are, I think.
Yeah.
But it's about being mindful and also really encouraging those offline hobbies and interests.
Right, things like sports, art, music, volunteering.
Yeah, activities that build real-world skills and real-world self-esteem, not just validation from online likes or comments. It provides an essential balance.
Good point. Anything else parents should be aware of?
Well, our sources also flag the issue of advertising. Kids and teens are heavily targeted online, so talking about how ads work and encouraging a bit of healthy skepticism is worthwhile.
Okay, media literacy.
Kind of, yeah. And a more serious point, one source mentioned that about 1 in 10 teens reported experiencing sexual dating violence. And sometimes social media gets used to spread harmful content related to that.
That's incredibly worrying.
It is. And it just underscores how vital it is to talk about consent, privacy, and respectful relationships, both online and offline, from an early age.
Absolutely critical conversations to have.
So really, fostering positive, healthy screen use. It's not a one-off conversation or rule. As the sources emphasize, it takes ongoing guidance, open communication, and consistency.
It really does. It feels like technology is this amazing, powerful tool, but figuring out how to use it well, especially for young people, requires us to be really aware, communicate openly, and be proactive.
That sums it up perfectly. It's about navigating the challenges while harnessing the potential.
So for you listening, if we were to boil it down, the key takeaways seem to be work together to set reasonable screen time rules, definitely implement those tech curfews before bed, keep the lines of communication wide open about their online world, actively teach them about privacy and being a good digital citizen.
And don't forget to really push for and prioritize those offline activities and real-world connections.
Right. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. How can we, all of us, individually and as a society, make sure technology actually serves us, enhances our lives and well-being, instead of becoming the source of anxiety or disconnection, especially for the next generation?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's definitely worth reflecting on your own digital habits and keeping these conversations going within your families.
Yep.
And if you need more information, resources like stopbullying.gov and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry have a lot of great guidance.